Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, I'm excited for this recap episode. USC takes care of business in the Coliseum, defeating Michigan 31-13, a signature win for Lincoln Riley in his USC era. It's been 24 hours, Cody. Very curious what you think about this one.
Yeah, this was a huge win by this USC football team. Like you said, it is a signature win. This was a game that I said earlier in the week that this was a must win. Not only, for Coach Riley and this team to have confidence going forward, but to prove to themselves that they can get the job done. This was a good Michigan team. I know there were injuries on both sides of the ball throughout this game, but it came down to which team could handle the adversity and go out there and take care of business. And USC was on the winning side of this one. I love the way that Lincoln Riley and this coaching staff had this team ready to go, because we talked about, I think on Wednesday during the podcast or during the preview episode, that it's good and bad when it comes to a bye week, because you can learn from some of your mistakes. You can have some self scout. You can get guys healthy. But the bad is sometimes it's tough to knock that rust off and hit the ground running and start fast. But USC did just that on both sides of the football. So enjoy this one. Let's celebrate. But at the end of the day, we have to move on. This is the standard here at USC. I don't want this to feel like this was the tip of the iceberg. This was the climax. This was the Super Bowl for USC. It can't feel like that. This is just another tough opponent, yes, but this is another Big Ten win that we need to celebrate. We need to learn from and get ready to go against Notre Dame this week. But I know USC fans, Trojan fans everywhere, were celebrating this one. And two, before we get into this, I got to give a huge shout out to the fans that were at the Coliseum yesterday. That place was loud. It was rocking. I get the chills. It flashed me back to Stanford in 2013
And we
when we
talked
asked
about
for the
that in the
fans.
preview.
Yeah, we asked for the fans to show up and to be loud, and they did just that. And shout out to Michigan fans as well too. They
Yeah.
traveled well, very respectful. It was a fun atmosphere. That's what you want when we signed up for the Big Ten. That was the atmosphere at the Coliseum that I was dreaming of, and it definitely delivered yesterday. But it's a lot better when you come out on the winning side of those.
What's interesting about this game, Cody, we both mentioned how it's a signature win for head coach Lincoln Riley, but I also felt like it was a signature win for USC's, emergence in the Big Ten. There's always been talk about, can USC take care of business, be physical in the Big Ten conference? And it felt like this was one of those games where, okay, can you take care of business at home? And not only did USC do that, but I just felt like it gives new life to this season now.
Yeah, and not to look back, but that's what we can do when we have a podcast, is talk about the season, as a whole. It's frustrating too that we lost that Illinois game, because that was a game that I felt like we should have won, and we should be undefeated right now in the Big Ten. But those road games are tough to win. But when you have the tough opponents at home in this conference, those have to count. You cannot lose those at home, because you're gonna, I don't want to say drop some on the road, but it's tougher to win those on the road when you have the home atmosphere, when you have the crowd behind you, when you have that 12th man against a good team like Michigan. You have to win those games. But yeah, it gives you confidence going forward. And the Big Ten, the SEC, these top end Power Four schools are starting to, hurt themselves a little bit. So everybody's in this race. Oregon lost yesterday to Indiana. Other teams are falling all over the country right now. Texas beats Oklahoma. So it's getting wild right now. But this is why we love college football, that we're in the thick of the race still. I know we dropped a game against Illinois, but we still have a chance to go out there and take care of everything we want to handle, and then have a chance at a Big Ten championship. And then not looking too far ahead, but set ourselves up for an opportunity to go to the playoffs this season.
Alrighty, Cody. Well, I'm excited to dive into the details about this game. Before we do, just a couple reminders. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the video version of this show on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. And you can also send us a question or just look at our social media. Victory Pod USC is where you can find us. Alrighty, Cody. We're going with our normal formula, which is basically offense, defense, breaking down by position. You're a quarterback. We start with the quarterback. On the whole, Cody, though, I thought this USC offense started fast. And that was one of the questions we had. How fast was this team going to start? And I thought they set the tone early.
Yeah, that's what you have to do in this type of game, because if we go out there and we have a 3-and-out, or we struggle, or have a turnover, things that we've had issues with on opening drives throughout this year, you take that home crowd out of it, and we don't want that. We want to get the crowd live. We want to get them loud. We want to get them excited for when the defense goes out. So that was awesome to see. Go down, score a touchdown on offense, hit Jacoby Lane in the back of the end zone, and then the defense feeds off of that, comes out and gets a 3-and-out. That was a dream start. That was perfect. That set the tone for the entire day. But the guy that I want to start with, like you mentioned, was Jaden Mayava. This was his opportunity to go out on a national stage at home and show that he can deliver in that type of atmosphere. And he did just that. He is playing some great football right now. It's been so much fun to watch this year. I mean, I feel like, I don't want to say a proud parent. I'm going to say a proud big brother, in the
Okay.
sense of, this kid, man, I watched him last year. Those last 4 games, there were a lot of people that wrote him off and didn't think that he could be the guy. And I saw those flashes. And I you can attest to this, Keely. On the Victory Pod, I said, look, I know he's making some mistakes. I know he's having some turnovers. I know he's not protecting the football. My whole, breakdown on when to be Superman, when to be Clark Kent. But with all that being said, the talent is there. The potential is there. That the fact that he's showing you these throws when he's only getting this little of an opportunity from last season gives me a lot of confidence going into this year. And it's awesome to see him deliver right now. It's just, there's a presence about him with this football team and with this offense right now on the field that makes you feel like, no matter whether we're down 20 in the game, we're up 20, he throws a pick, he throws a touchdown, whatever the scenario is, he's going to go out there and deliver. He's not going to get rattled. He's not going to get too high. He's not going to get too low. A big part of playing the quarterback position is weathering the motions throughout the entire game because it's going to go up and down, and he is calm, cool, and collected at all times. I will say, though, when we were watching this game from the end zone or from behind the end zone early on, after that first touchdown, I haven't seen this before, but he got a little chirpy
Yeah,
to
you
one of the
pointed that out to
defensive
me.
ends on Michigan. Well, one of the defensive ends, Barham, who's a really good player, that they're number one, their defensive end, was getting a little chirpy with Walker Lyons. Maava walked up as a quarterback, protected his guy, and kind of gave him a little, I don't know what he said. Probably, I'm going to ad lib here. Probably said, hey, get ready for that all game long. But it was cool to see. You can see that confidence building. You can see that he's really becoming a leader and a vocal leader and a physical leader on this team. And it just, when you have a guy that's that talented, but also has those leadership qualities, you can win a lot of games. And right now, USC can win a lot of games with 14. So it's been a lot of fun to watch his progress, everything he's getting better with, comfortable in the pocket, going through progression, making great decisions with the football. I will say, though, some of the negatives, and you've always got to be critical of your quarterback. And I know Jade Maava and Lincoln Riley are there watching film right now. That red zone interception, that just can't happen. You're down and you've already got a field goal. You've already got 3 points guaranteed. It's 3rd and 12. You don't have to be a hero. And this goes back to what we talk about all the time, Keely. And you even texted me. You said, I can hear you in my head right now saying when to be Superman, when to be Clark Kent. That was a perfect example. The play's dead. You're rolling out. I don't know if you're trying to flip it to Makai Lemon or who he was trying to get the ball to. There are multiple guys in that area. Just don't force it. Everything gets a lot tighter down in the red zone. Throw it away. Move on. Ryan Sayre has been playing some great football this year. Had an unbelievable kick in this game. Let him take the 3 points, and then let's go play some defense. You just can't make that mistake. And then the other area that I think he can continue to improve on, there's a couple times in the zone read where I wish he would have pulled it. Some of those RPO reads, the first part of that is reading that defensive end. They crashed a couple times. We had Walker Lyons out on the edge. I think he could have pulled it and got outside a couple times and just keep the defense honest, especially when you lose, Eli Sanders, Wayman Jordan. Jade Maava needs to be that next factor in the run game and help out King Miller and some of these other guys. But overall, I'm going to give him – say A. I can't give him an A plus because there's always room to improve. But man, for his moment, for that type of environment to go out and perform the way he did against Wink Martindale and that defense, who has been playing as good as anybody right now in the country, very well done. I mean, this USC football team can win a lot of games with 14 at quarterback.
Just like I did last recap episode, Cody, I'm going to lump in the wide receivers and tight ends together into a receivers portion, but I just have to start with Makai Lemon. I was 5 yards away from that touchdown catch, and I just did not understand how that man did what he did. Also, credit to Jaden. That was an incredible throw as well. But overall, Cody, let's start with Makai. What do you see from him once again?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too. That was very impressive. That's just trust right there. That's a throw you make to a guy that is going to make a play for you. It's either him or nobody. It was a slot fade. He knew that there was no help on the outside. He actually had help on the inside by the safety. The DB did, but Makai knew that, okay, I'm running that slot fade, work to that back corner, and then Jaden threw him a back shoulder. I mean, he even got a hand one. We're not getting the calls. I don't care about it anymore, but he had a hand in his face, couldn't see. Ball was above him, still caught it, and continued to hold on to the ball through the ground. So that was unbelievable. Look, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm a broken record. I don't mind being a broken record. Makai Lemon is the best wide receiver in football right now. He really is. I mean, there's some talented receivers around the country. No one is playing as good as number 6 for USC right now. And I mean that. I mean, I've been watching a lot of film. I watch games before we do the Trojan Tailgate show. I come home and record some of these games. I like to watch a lot of the talented players around the country. I'm putting 6 up against anybody. He knows how to win versus man. He understands concepts and spacing and leverage versus zone and how to find those windows and how to work with his quarterback. Does a great job with his route running. He's smooth. He's fearless going over the middle. He has strong hands. Not the biggest guy in the world at 5'11", but his catch radius is unbelievable. I mean, he plays like someone who's 6'5". He's that talented, and his understanding of the situations, that catch on the sideline to know that, all right, I'm going to be falling out of bounds, but I can get my feet in and drag a toe. That's stuff that you teach at NFL. There's not a lot of guys at college that can understand that and that can do that in those type of moments and do it consistently. Makai Lemon's doing that. I mean, he is that guy right now. I really believe that. There's been a lot of great receivers that have worn cardinal and gold here at USC. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to be that next one in line.
Now, this is super silly, but I just have to point out the fact that when we go to the wide shot on the video version of this show, you're like, 6 is the best, and there's a 6 right over your shoulder.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it almost looks like you're talking about yourself. So
He's repping. I love it. He's repping. I love it.
Some 6 and 6 love right there. You're repping your number there. But as far as Jacoby Lane as well, you mentioned him earlier in the show. He was listed on the injury report. Part of me thought that he might be questionable given, the injury was lingering, but he played well. What do you see from him as well?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Jacoby Lane as well. I'm glad you brought him up. I mean, I know he hasn't been 100% these last couple of weeks, but he's battling through injury. That's the definition of a leader. He's putting his body on the line for his teammates. He did it against Illinois. He did it yesterday against Michigan, and he's having some impact plays as well. He had that first touchdown beginning in the game, but the impact that he has, even when he's not getting the ball, is so important because it takes a lot of that pressure off of Mekhi Lemon. It forces Wink Martindale and other defensive coordinators to have to play both of them, and they can't just key on one guy. And you wonder why Mekhi Lemon keeps getting these one-on-one matchups and why defensive coordinators keep putting their guys on an island to cover him. It's because they got to worry about 8, and they got to worry about Walker Lyons, and they got to worry about Lake McCree. They can't just focus on one guy. And then you got to worry about our backside of the backfield as well as some, catching the football. So glad to see him out there. That's the type of leader that you want in your locker room. When he's 100%, though, whenever that time comes, and I know he's getting back to that, again, I fully believe this. He is also one of the best wide receivers in the country right now, and I'm putting that duo of Lemon Lane, whatever we want to call him, I'm putting that duo up against anybody in college football right now.
Well, I mentioned throwing in the tight ends into this section, and so I'm going to do it here, but I feel like we've said preseason, Cody, that the tight ends could be that third main receiver for USC, and they've really solidified their position. What do you see from both Walker Lyons and Lake McCree on Saturday?
Yeah, they've been just that. It's been 3A, 3B, honestly. That they've been making some big-time plays. Just huge shout-out to those guys as well. I mean, they combined for 4 catches for 83 yards. Lyons averaged 21 yards per catch in this game, and Lake McCree averaged 20.5 yards per catch in this game. It is such a huge advantage if you're Lincoln Riley as a play caller to have 2 guys like that aren't just dink and dunk tight ends either. It's not just, hey, quick slide route, an out route, a stick route. They are pressing the field vertically. They're pushing up down the seam. They're taking, the middle of the field, making some of these big catches, taking some shots as well. It's been really impressive to see. And that's something that I think this offense for Lincoln Riley has lacked the last couple of seasons as legit pass catching tight ends. And now USC has 2 of them. But not only are they great down the field with their hands and catching the football, they've been really good at blocking as well. And that's what makes it so tough for these defensive coordinators because they don't know with Walker on the field or with Lake on the field, if we are running the football or we are going play action or we are going to fake the run and then slide them out the back door and do all these different things off of it. So it's a great 1-2 punch right now. I'm really excited that we're seeing them develop. Walker Lyons is a guy that's a young player that's going to be here for a couple more years. And then Lake McCree's making a statement right now as a senior. So it's been a lot of fun to watch those guys. Now, I will say, and I'm going to call him out because he's a senior and I know he's going to hold himself, to a high standard and he's going to hold himself accountable for this. But, McCree, you got to hold on to the football on that big hit. That was tough. That's points down there in the red zone. I know you didn't see that coming, and that's a tough ball to hold on to. That's a huge shot, and that was a great play by the DB. But when you're down there in the red zone, when you're getting close to the goal line, especially in the middle of the field, you're getting back around all those bodies. So you got to have 2 hands on the football. He only had 1. That's what made it get knocked out. But that's something I'm sure he'll work on this week and get it corrected. But overall, huge shout out to those tight ends. They've been playing some really good football, and it makes your job as a quarterback. And I promise Jade Mayava feels the same way. It makes your job a lot easier when you have 2 targets like that going over the middle.
I think it's also worth noting that Lake was a questionable on the injury report. He was listed as questionable. And so I watched him warm up. He looked fine. And of course, that doesn't really mean anything if something's lingering, but just something to watch for if that's something that goes on longer. Or did that impact his play on Saturday? I don't know.
I'm glad you brought that. Did they say so on these injury reports, Keely? Did they say what it is? It's
no,
what
I
injury
wish
they're
they did.
dealing with?
No,
okay.
It says out, questionable, and
gotcha.
Out for season.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. That's something to keep an eye on. Either way, another guy battling through injury that was out there with his teammates and another guy that made a big impact in this game.
And it won't be the last time we're talking about the injury report on this recap either. It was an interesting game for USC. But I want to talk about USC's offensive line. And it's wild, Cody. If you would have told us preseason that USC would be out its starting center and out Elijah Page and still put up one of the best rushing performances against Michigan since 2022, I would have been very surprised. That's a unit where in the past there hasn't been a lot of depth, but props to the roster construction and to Coach Hansen. It feels like this unit is really showing what they can do in the trenches.
Yeah, what a performance from that unit. I mean, seriously, it's been something that we've been wanting to see from that group. And they played some good football this year, but we've been wanting to see the last couple of years in the Big Ten for them to go out against a team that was quote unquote more physical or a physical unit, one of the more dominant front sevens in college football and in the Big Ten. We wanted to see them go out and control the trenches, and they did just that and then some. And they did it while playing musical chairs up front with guys moving to a bunch of different positions. They did it without their best left tackle. They did it without their center. They did it with guys that haven't played a ton of football on the offensive line. So that is a huge testament, like you mentioned, to Coach Hansen, who deserves to take a bow. And it also is a huge testament to the leadership in that room, but also the guys that have been developed here under Lincoln Riley and within this scheme. And they know that when they go out there, whether they're the starter or the next man up, they can go still make big plays and have a night like they did. I mean, 224 yards rushing. And we'll talk about, the real MVP in a second. And the guy that deserves his crown. I don't want to give it away too much, but we'll talk about him in a second. But he wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for those five guys up front. And a great running back will always give credit to his offensive line. So I'm sure he'll say the same thing. But what I loved is they handled all the pressure looks on third down. You could tell that they spent a ton of time this week in the film room with their prep, going over blitz pickups, going over what Wink Martindale does on third down because there was no confusion. John Ray Reed was up there pointing, making his calls. Hey, we're going to this guy. We're going to 30. We're going to 15, whoever it was. Then he turned around and made sure that him and Jaden Maava were on the same page, did it within the play clock. And then they also had no issues with center quarterback exchange. That is high level stuff to do for making only your second, or really your first start, because he got thrown into the fire during Syracuse after the third drive. But making your first start at USC to go out there and play against that defense and do that, that was great to see from Reed. And that gives you confidence going forward until Killian O'Connor gets back. But I also got to give a shout out to our two tackles. If I don't know if everybody noticed, and Keely, we saw this on that opening drive, but since Elijah Page went down, they had Justin Tawanu'u at left tackle and Tobias Raymond at right tackle. In this game, for whatever reason, I don't know if anyone asked Coach Riley about this, but then they switched them, put Tawanu'u back to right tackle, what he's been playing, and they put Tobias Raymond at left tackle, and those guys didn't miss a beat. Was it perfect? No. And you're not going to win every time against those type of players that Michigan has, but they did a really good job. Their win rate was through the roof. I was very impressed with the way that they handled those one-on-one situations that Wink Martindale puts you in. And then I love the way that we kept running the football downhill. It never got to the point to where it felt like, okay, we can't run between the tackles. Let's just go pitch. Let's go swing pass. Let's get outside. We dominated with the interior, and then we were athletic enough on some of those pullers. Our base run game with guard tackle pulling, we were athletic enough to get up to the second level and create big holes all night for King Miller and the rest of these running backs. And if you notice, a lot of those runs were going to the left side. We were following Tobias Raymond, we were following Micah Benuelos, and then we were pulling around Alani Noah and Justin Tawanu'u and letting them get up to the second level. And Michigan did not have an answer all game long. So that was great. I'm a quarterback. Obviously, I'm going to pour it on for the offensive line. I'm going to give them a ton of love. Zach Hansen, take a bow. John Ray Reed, you deserve a game ball. The rest of the guys up front, you really set the tone from that first drive, and you didn't let off the gas the entire game, and you really won us that game. So shout out to those five guys up front.
Well, you alluded to this, Cody, by making the crown him emoji. We're going to talk about USC's running backs. True freshman walk-on running back King Miller earned the name King on Saturday. It's an incredible performance. USC needed someone to step up badly, and we'll talk about the unfortunate injury news in a second. But King Miller, have a day. Talk about the King Miller game. That's what Bishop said, and I think you said it as well, Cody. But just an incredible performance.
Yeah, what a performance by King Miller. I mean, that was a legacy game for him last night. It really was. When you look back at these big time games and these big time moments, and you're playing against a blue blood opponent like Michigan, it's a little bit of a revenge game from a year ago. You love those storylines. You love, what made the difference in this game. And for it to be a redshirt freshman stepping up because of some unfortunate injuries, but for him to step up and have the impact that he had, a lot of Trojan fans are going to recognize that name now. And you should have already going into this year or early in the season, because he's been making some impact plays, but he hasn't had the opportunity to do it on that type of stage. And boy, did he deliver. And for those of you who don't know, King Miller, just a little background on him. He's a 6 foot, 210-pound redshirt freshman from Calabasas, California. And he's also a walk-on. He is not a scholarship player for long. Let me hold on a second. Not for long. I promise you that man's earning a scholarship as we speak, but he was a walk-on player who had opportunities to play elsewhere, but he chose to stay close to home and come here and put on the Cardinal and gold. And the fact that he delivered on that type of stage last night was unbelievable to see. I mean, I get the chills just talking about it because you love those storylines from some of those guys that are overlooked, that are underdogs, that just want a shot, that just want an opportunity because they know what they can do. And last night, he absolutely did that. He was fearless. He didn't miss a beat. He didn't go out there and look lost. He didn't, he was ready to step into that number one running back role. And you could tell that he was ready for that opportunity, had great vision, great patience. I mean, he looked like Wayman Jordan out there. He looked like Eli Sanders out there. I guarantee you he's been learning from those guys in the film room and learning from them in the meeting rooms and on the practice field because he was patient with the guard tackle pullers. He made guys miss in open space. He got the job done on himself, but he also trusted his offensive line. So it was great to see. Again, put the crown on him. We got to get some merch made. We've got the lemonade or the lemon aid or whatever we call it. We've got King Miller now. What a name, too. We can get some merch going off of that. The Victory Pod, we're getting ideas. Emily, our producer, write all this down. We got some ideas coming out. But no, all jokes aside, that was awesome to see. Very well done. And I hate how it happened, how we got the opportunity. And hopefully those guys can get back soon. And I'm sure we'll talk about in a second some more updates on them. But going forward, I feel very comfortable with King Miller back there handling that running back one position.
And to give context to how unique that performance was, he's the first walk-on to score a touchdown since tailback Jess Holgan scored a 7-yard run versus Cal in 1994, and that came during a 61-0 win. So I'm assuming that was during garbage time, but King's reps came during meaningful time and has this whole season. So it's just props to him. It's a rare thing to happen. It's very cool to see.
Yeah, that walk-on storyline won't be for much longer. I promise you that. He's going to now be scholarship running back King Miller going forward. But I mean, not even that touchdown, Keely, though, but before that, the turning point in this game, really, I believe, what was that 3rd and 26. And he had that 49-yard run, and we stopped. The defense comes out and stops Michigan on a 3-and-out, and they punt it. And then we go out and get the football, and then we had that unfortunate penalty by Mekhi Lemon. Got to be smarter in that situation. But then we get a 15-yarder, and it feels like that was a chance to capitalize on momentum, but we have to punt it right back. And now we have our own 3-and-out. But no, King Miller gets the ball, goes around the left side. Great job by Alani Noah, Taonu leading up, and he made a guy miss too. I can't just say that was all the offensive line. There was a free defensive player in the middle of that defense, put his foot in the ground left, jabbed right, or cut back to the right, and got vertical and made a huge play on the ground. I really believe that was a turning point in this football game because it got the crowd going, it got momentum back on our side, and then we finished in the end zone a couple plays later, and it just felt like at that moment, I really started to believe, all right, we just got a 49-yard run on 3rd and 26. This is our night. King Miller is that guy. He's that dude. He's legit. This offensive line's playing great. The receivers on the outside are making some big plays. The defense is playing well. Everything went in our favor, and a big part of that was because of number 30 last night on the ground.
Well, as you alluded to, Cody, it was bittersweet for the running back room on Saturday. Obviously, so happy for King Miller, but the reason why he got so many carries was because USC got the injury bug at that position. First, I didn't even really see it, Cody, and I don't know if you saw it, but Eli Sanders, I don't know which play he got hurt on, but it looked pretty bad. He was carted off, and just look, you know when guys know it's bad, and it was just so sad to see him carted off in that sense. And head coach Lincoln Riley basically confirmed it as well. He said they fear it's going to be season ending, but they're going to get confirmation today, meaning Sunday. So we'll see on that front. But as far as Wayman Jordan as well, he went down a little bit later. It was kind of back to back almost. It looked like a left ankle situation, a high ankle sprain. Riley seemed a little bit more, it seemed like a better prognosis, I'll say, with Wayman Jordan than it did Eli Sanders. I would guess a couple weeks, but still, that is a significant depth issue for USC's running backs now, and so much so that it was an issue during the game, which leads me to, we got to bring up the injury report again. Brian Jackson was listed as out in the injury report. Wow. On Saturday. And there are rules against that. You cannot put a player in if you have listed them out. So Riley was like, I'm going to make sure that you guys get the full situation. And it's so funny because Jordan Moore came up to me during the game, at the start of the third, and he said, I just saw Brian Jackson talking to the team doctor, and then he ran to the locker room. And I was like, he's not suiting up, is he? And he was like, I think he's suiting up. And I was like, what? So this is what happened. So Riley said that during the half, they called the Big Ten, which, first of all, like, is it 1-800 Big Ten hotline? Like, who are you calling? Like, who are you calling at this point? And they said, look, Brian Jackson has had a turf toe injury. He's been practicing. He wasn't like game ready, but we are in an emergency situation depth wise because at that point there was no
They
active.
were.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
There was no active scholarship running backs available for USC at that point.
Yeah.
And Brian Jackson's the only scholarship running back left healthy at this point. So they called the Big Ten and were like, hey, this is a dire situation. He has been cleared by the doctors to play if we put him in the second half. Can we have an exemption to put him in, even though the injury report does not reflect that because of how much of an emergency depth situation this is? And apparently the Big Ten said, go for it. So that's how Brian Jackson came in. It was wild to see him come back down from the tunnel with pads on, warming up on the sideline. And then not only does he play, he scores a touchdown. So
He sure did.
We've been
Yeah.
fans of Brian Jackson here on the Victory Podcast for a long time. And so it's just crazy to see him back, crazy to see him play. That turf toe injury, is that something where, how did his injury withstand during the game? Like, is that something where did he aggravate it a little bit? We don't know. Will he be good to go against Notre Dame? But overall, Cody, a wild night on the whole for USC's running back room. Obviously, depth is a concern right now for USC's running backs. Just overall, Cody, what are you thinking right now when it comes to just where we're at with that?
Yeah, a lot. That was a lot of information.
I know.
But
Sorry.
I'll start. No, that was unbelievable reporting. No, seriously, like find another podcast that has that information. You're not going to. That was a great explanation. That gives a lot of insight into what happened, because I'm not only myself, I'm sure a lot of people were curious how that worked out. So very well done, Keely. Thank you for that background stuff. But I'll start with this. I'll say that I hate that for Eli Sanders. I
Yeah.
hate it for Wayman Jordan. I really do, man. Those were two guys that I was so excited about. Not only do you lose one in this game, you lose both of them, and you go from being one of the best rushing teams in the Big Ten to now having to rely on a couple walk-ons and now a guy that's not 100%. So there is some concern there. I feel great with King Miller, Brian Jackson. Hopefully, can get some more reps because we've always been high on him. But what's that going to look like going forward? I don't know. Are they going to be able to keep that up and keep that momentum, or was it just one of those things where it would just kind of worked out our way in this football game? So something to keep a close eye on. But yeah, I'm praying for Eli Sanders. I'm praying for Wayman Jordan. Hopefully, like we mentioned, that Riley was optimistic that Wayman Jordan will be back this season. So hopefully USC can keep things going on the ground game and have some production there before number 2 gets back out there. But for Eli Sanders, man, I hate that for him. Really going to miss him out there. I know he was only here for a short while, but you're a Trojan for life. And no matter what his future looks like, obviously we're always going to be rooting for him. But either way, yeah, it's next man up mentality. And sometimes that next man up mentality means calling the Big Ten, putting your jersey on and getting your butt out there for the second half. So we have a lot of leadership on this football team. We have a lot of great coaches on this football team. So whatever that running back room looks like going forward, I know those guys are going to be able to hold it down until we can get some of those other guys healthy.
Alrighty, Cody. I think that's it for USC's offense. Any final thoughts before we switch over to the defense?
Yeah, just a couple things real quick before we go to the defensive side of the ball. Things that I think are important, and I want to give credit where credit is due. What we talked about in this football game, it's going to be Lincoln Riley versus Wink Martindale, a cat and mouse, them going back and forth. Two of the best minds in football, one on offense, one on defense. Lincoln Riley got the better of Wink Martindale in this football game. He really did. I loved all the pre-snap motion that he used. I love the constant movement and the window dressing pre and post snap. And what I mean by that is there were times that we were motioning our running backs out wide and forcing them to remove a player from the box. Then we'd start them out wide and bring them back, get man zone tells and figure out what they're doing. We would move tight ends across in the formation pre-snap. We bring wide receivers across, making Michigan over-communicate, having to adjust, having to make decisions on the fly. And then we'd snap the football and run the same formation 3 or 4 times and then 3 or 4 plays off of that. So we dictated what Michigan had to do instead of Michigan dictating what we did on offense. And when you do that, you can win football games and you keep the defense on their heels. And when you go up against a coordinator like Wink Martindale, it's hard to pull that off. But Lincoln Riley really did that. In my opinion, this was one of the best games that I've ever seen from Lincoln Riley. With all the injuries, with a new center, you lose both running backs, you're going up against Martindale. I mean, he was in his bag. And that's what we said in the preview episode. If we want to win this game, play caller, head coach, yeah, sure, be a leader. But play caller Lincoln Riley had to be in his bag and keep that defense guessing. And he did it all game long. And credit to him, even with the turnovers, it should have been 41 points in this game. We left 10 to 14 points out there on the field. So phenomenal job by Lincoln Riley. Got to give him credit. And where that showed up big too was on third down, 6 to 12 on third down, which is 50%. For those of you who don't know, you want to be around 40%, 35% is winning football on offense. But we were also 1-1 on fourth down too. We kept extending drives, moving the chains, forcing Michigan to try to keep up with us. That is winning football. That is forcing Michigan to stay on their heels, to put the pressure on them and extend drives. So just got to give credit there. Lincoln Riley was absolutely phenomenal last night. This team responded. They took advantage of that 2 week bye, that 2 week
Yeah.
time that they had during the bye week, and they went out there and applied the game plan on the field. And it was really cool to see.
Alrighty, Cody, I want to talk about USC's defensive performance. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. And at Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise your budget. Save on thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Now, Cody, talking about USC's front seven, I feel like after the Illinois game, it was almost like a little bit of an identity crisis. We were asking what is this defense? What can we rely on when we watch this team? What did you see from how they responded on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean that game against Illinois 2 weeks ago, that was bad, and it was unacceptable. And we're just being honest about it. And I promise you, they said the same thing during these last two bye weeks. They probably said it in a different way. And Coach Hinney and Coach Nua were a little bit more aggressive. And I promise Rob Ryan was a little more aggressive than I am right now. But that's what you need. That when you have a game like that, you got to go back in the film room. You got to have accountability. You got to learn from those mistakes. Win loss, I mean, it's glass half empty, glass half full. When you look at it after a bye, it's tough because you want to go out there and correct it the following week. But you have to sit on it for 2 weeks. But the other part of that, the positive, is you have 2 weeks to correct it, and you have 2 weeks to learn from it and get it fixed. And that's exactly what this front seven did. That's exactly what the linebackers, the D line, the coaching staff. You could tell there was a point of emphasis this week with gap integrity, with being physical, with playing on their side of the football. Against Illinois, we were getting pushed too far back off the ball, and they were getting those easy 10-yard gains and 8-yard gains and 7-yard gains on first and second down, and we weren't putting them in bad third down situations. That was not the case in this football game. We were winning on first down. We were winning on second down. We were controlling the trenches, and then we were forcing Bryce Underwood to have to try to win the game on third down. That was just so much fun to watch. It's when you have a play caller like Danton Lynn, who knows how to dial up the pressure looks and put guys in positions to win. And then you have a team or a defense that goes out there and they accomplish that. They executed the game plan. You could tell that Danton Lynn and this unit spent a ton of time this week and reading their keys and knowing their adjustments and knowing how to stop the run game and knowing what Bryce Underwood does well, knowing what they didn't do well. I got to give credit to the linebackers as well. And that's what I talk about. When I say front seven, I'm talking about the 4 defensive linemen up front and the 3 linebackers, whether that's a nickel linebacker or another will linebacker, Sam linebacker, like Jaden Walker played in this football game. The linebackers were playing downhill. They were filling the gaps. They were playing aggressive. They were trusting their keys. They were trusting the reads and their responsibilities every single play. They were where they needed to be when they needed to be there. And another big thing, too, is their backside pursuit was great in this game. And what I mean by that is when you have those zone reads, sometimes as a linebacker, Eric Gentry did a great job of this. Desmond Stevens, another guy, you might be the unblocked guy on the backside because the quarterback's reading you. As soon as you see that the quarterback gives it and your responsibility on them is done, you've got to get downhill quick and make those plays on the backside, being that unblocked defender. Eric Gentry was phenomenal in that all game long. He used his length, his size, his speed to his ability. So it was fun to see. And also that group, you could tell they started feeding off the Coliseum and feeding off each
Yeah.
other's energy. And
Yeah.
when you stop the run and you're physical and you know that you're just overpowering your opponent, it is contagious. And it's so much fun to watch. So was happy to see those guys play well. Gentry did a good job. Stevens was all over the place, but another guy I got to give credit to, and I just mentioned him a second ago, Jaden Walker had a big role in
Yeah.
this, and they came out and we saw it, Keely, from that opening drive. Michigan came out in 11 personnel, which means it's 1 tight end, 1 running back, 3 wide receivers. That's that 3 wide personnel where you expect them to do, those spread offense, the zone read, the play action off of that. But we played base against that. Instead of having Kamari Ramsey at nickel, we came out and put Jaden Walker at linebacker and put Kamari Ramsey at safety and said, I dare you to try to run the football. Try to run the football all game long because we're going to be physical and we're going to try to have Bryce Underwood, or we're going to force you to make Bryce Underwood win this game. And we did just that. And it was a great game plan by Danton Lynn. He still mixed it up. Don't get me wrong. Kamari ended up playing nickel a good amount in this game. Jaden Walker came off the field, but you could tell that he had a plan in place. And like we did on offense against Wink Martindale, going up against Chip Lindsey, Dan Lynn made sure we're going to dictate what you do instead of you dictating what we do. Great game plan on both sides of the ball. Danton Lynn and Lincoln Riley came ready to go in this game. The players trusted it. They executed it. Another guy I want to give credit to also, Devin Tompkins had 2 sacks in this game.
Yeah.
Saw him get into the rhythm, had a sack fumble towards the end as well. Now, was it perfect? No. There were some areas that they can still improve on. But overall, I was very impressed by this front seven from USC and this coaching staff that had their guys ready to go.
Now, I know it matters contextually when you use base versus nickel, but given the success that they had in base on Saturday, do you see Lynn using it more going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something to keep an eye on. I think that's going to be more so based off of who the opponent is. If we
Mm.
play another team like Michigan that's run first, I wouldn't be surprised to see base personnel even against nickel, just to make a point of emphasis to stop the run and try to force the quarterback to hurt us with their arms. But overall, whatever the opponent is, whoever the opponent is, whatever the game plan is, Danton Lynn, after seeing this, is going to have the guys ready to go. And one more thing before we move on, I want to add that has to be the standard now going forward. That has to be what you strive for every single game, because now you know you can do it. And there's been questions of, well, can we be physical in the Big Ten? Can we control the trenches on the defensive line? We've added this depth, we've added this beef, we've got bigger guys, we've done all this, but we haven't seen it consistently. Last night was the best performance I've seen from this defensive line, going up against a very good Michigan offense and controlling the pace of the game and the physicality of the game for all 4 quarters. That is the standard now. You cannot accept anything less. Those games like we have against Illinois where you get pushed off the football is no more. But sometimes as a unit, as a group, you just need that one game to where you can see it on film and believe it and trust it. And now that gives you the confidence going forward. And then I said one more thing, two more things actually. I'm going to add one more.
Classic.
Well, I've got to, yeah, no, my mind gets going. I want to talk football. And I saw this on Twitter, and there was a question going back and forth. All right, if Justice Haynes was still in the game, would it have been differently? Would that have changed the outcome? First and foremost, hate to see that for anybody. I wanted Michigan to be at their best, obviously, hoping for a speedy recovery with Justice Haynes. It was not, it was a tough night for running backs. You know, they lose Haynes. We lost Sanders and Jordan. So hopefully all three of those guys can get healthy. But even if he was in that game, would he have made a couple more guys miss and maybe made some runs on the ground? Sure, but we were dominating so well in the trenches. I don't think it mattered who they put at running back in this football game. And I don't say that lightly, because I know Justice Haynes is one of the best backs in the entire country, but we played so dominant and controlled the line of scrimmage that even if he was in that game, I still think it was going to be the same outcome. And it still would have been as lopsided as it was, because we were controlling the trenches so well. So I just wanted to add that in there. Got to give praise to the front seven. We're tough on them. We're critical of them when they don't have a good game, but we got to make sure to give them praise as well when they have a great game like they did last night. But again, this isn't the Super Bowl. This isn't the end of the season. This is just another step. You got to go do it again against the Fighting Irish to control the trenches on Saturday this week as well.
Now looking at the secondary, what did you see from that unit on the whole, Cody?
Yeah, this was another group that we've been critical on this year, and for good reason. They haven't played their best. And when we talk about the secondary, we're talking about the safeties and the corners. I'll start with one guy, though, that did make a difference in this football game, and he makes a difference every time he's out there, and that's Kamari Ramsey. It was great to have him back. He missed the game against Illinois because he had food poisoning. He makes a difference when he's on the field. You can tell a difference in this defense when Seven's out there and when he's not out there. He's in that Eric Gentry category when it comes to the impact that they have on Lynn and the game plan and the scheme and the way that he calls the defense. You can play Kamari Ramsey at nickel. You can play him at safety. You can play him off the ball. You can play him on the ball. You can bring him on pressure situations. You can play deep as that safety on the back end. He can stop the run down in the box. He can also cover a tight end or a slot receiver on the outside. He just does so many different things, and he has so much versatility to where it's tough to replicate that or replace him when you don't have him on the field. And we saw that against Illinois. So great to have him back. He was a difference maker in this game. Sticking with the safety position, I got to give a huge shout out to the guy that was next to him, and that safety, Bishop Fitzgerald. What a steal he has been from the transfer portal this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he has stepped up in so many different ways. He's becoming a real playmaker on this USC defense. 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 interceptions in this game. That's 5 interceptions through 6 games already this year. He is becoming a ball hawk. And if people remember, he mentioned after that first game when he had a couple interceptions that everybody gave him a hard time during camp because he couldn't catch. They would always say that,
Yeah.
there's a reason you're playing defense. That has not been the case. I haven't seen that yet. So whatever he was been doing or whatever he's done from camp to now, it's working. Keep it up. Bishop Fitzgerald's playing some really good football. Christian Pierce, I thought, had a decent game. Did give up that one big play to Andrew Marsh, the receiver from Michigan, that kind of got them back in the game. It was a cover 2 hole shot. Underwood hit Marsh, number 4, on the left side of the field. Christian Pierce just took a bad angle, let him cut back inside. Can't have that missed tackle, especially when you're the last line of defense. But as a unit right now, with Pierce, with Fitzgerald, and Kamari Ramsey, the way we rotate those 3 safeties, I think they're playing some good football. Looking at the cornerback position in this game, it was really just 2 guys. They've been rotating a lot, but in this game, it was Marcellus Williams and it was DeCarlos Nicholson, and they played the majority of this game, which I think is a good thing, Keely. I think it's better when we
Yeah.
start getting to a set group of guys instead of having to rotate a bunch of guys. Now they can get in rhythm. They can start getting more comfortable. They can start learning and get that full game experience. It's tough as a corner to go out of the game, to come into the game, to rotate every other series because you're having to play man. You get in the flow of the game. You're covering a guy, and then you go sit for two series, and why guys rotate, then you got to come back in and then cover again. So it's not easy to do. I like that we're getting a little more set with, hey, this is our number one corner, this is our number two guy. Let's give them a full game and see what they can do. Because I really believe right now, corner outside of quarterback is probably the toughest position to play in today's era of football. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many rules that the refs are very focused on illegal contact, on pass interference, on all these different things. And on top of that, as a DB, when you're playing man, you have no idea what the receiver is going to do. They know the route they're running. You don't. You have to
Yeah.
react and stay close to them. And there's so many talented receivers right now. We're seeing it with Mekhi Lemon. It's impossible right now to cover him and man to man. So no, I'm not making excuses for our corners right now. They've got to continue to get better. Were they perfect in this game? No, but I thought they were more competitive. You could tell that Danton Lynn made it a point of emphasis to keep everything in front of us this game, forced Bryce Underwood to take the underneath stuff. And then when he tried to force some of those throws down the field, we were getting some interceptions. We were making some plays on the ball. I mentioned that whole shot. That shouldn't have been an explosive play. It should have been tackled. But other than that, they really weren't taking the top off of the defense. So keep everything in front, come up and tackle. Thought the game plan was great. But still, going forward, these corners have to continue to step up and improve because we're going to play some more offenses that have some talented guys on the outside, like Notre Dame, like Oregon, like Nebraska. With some of the receivers they have on the outside, we've got to trust that our corners can play man to man and cover these guys all game long.
Now, Cody, there is a third phase of the game that we often neglect here on this podcast. Unfortunately, so they deserve some credit. So we're going to talk about them next. But any final thoughts on USC's defensive performance?
Yeah, I mean, just the last things I had in my notes that I wanted to add in. It was so cool to see Danton Lynn going up against one of his former teachers, one of the guys that he learns from. And if you missed the preview episode, Wink Martindale was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens back in 2021. Danton Lynn was a safeties coach during that time. He comes from that Wink Martindale coaching tree. Our defense at USC is very similar to what Martindale does at Michigan. A lot of coaches in the country right now are using the defense and Wink Martindale does. So it was cool to see them go head to head. And it felt like Danton Lynn got the better of his teacher in this game. So I know they probably talked after the game and they went back and forth. They're two very competitive coaches, but it was really cool to see Danton Lynn go out there and put together such a great game plan. And where that really showed up too, one more thing I want to add, third and fourth down. We were perfect. That's another area that we won this football game. Michigan was 2 of 9 on third down. And most importantly, they were 0 for 2 on fourth down in those got to have it situations. You can win a lot of games like that on defense if you can get off the field on those crucial down distances.
Well, as I mentioned, we have to give a shout out to special teams. Ryan Sairi with a 54-yard field goal, tied for second now for the longest field goal in USC football history. Just hats off to him. He not even supposed to be the starter. USC got a transfer, but here Ryan is filling in for injury and stepping up big time.
Yeah, what a great moment for him, too, in this game. I mean, that was a huge kick. It's in the fourth quarter. We're up 21-7 at that point, and he makes it 24-7 instead of giving them great field position, because if he missed that, then Michigan would take over on a short field, and they ended up scoring that next drive also to make it 13-24. So what a crucial point in this game to go out there, 54-yarder, next man up mentality. That just feels like that's the theme of this football team. Guys are getting hurt. Guys have injuries. Guys are going down, unfortunately, but the depth and the foundation and the culture and the talent on this roster, guys are stepping up, and that's a huge testament to Lincoln Riley and this coaching staff. One more thing I will add, though, Keely, is that everyone needs to know, and you said it right, it is Ryan Sairi. It is not
Good point.
Ryan. It is
Yes.
Ryan. So make sure you say it right and give him his credit, because that's a big name, hopefully, that we're going to need again a couple times, and he's going to keep delivering for USC this season.
Well, also, he was so humble behind the scenes on Trojans Live. He was like, people
I
call
know.
me Ryan. It's okay. And we were like, it's your name.
Yeah, we're like, do you correct him? He's like, nah, I'm used to it. I'm like, dude, you're not going to have to correct him anymore, because us here at the Victory Pod, we're going to correct him for you so everyone knows
try our
how
best.
to say Ryan.
Well, I mean, you talk about unsung heroes and giving us a special team shout out. I also want to give a shout out to Ryan Doherty. I feel like he's a name. He's a special teams coordinator for USC.
Yeah.
He's a name we don't mention often, but given how well his unit has been performing, units, I should say, because it's multiple, but, Eddie Shaplitsky last season, I just wanted to give him a shout out because that's something that you don't really hear from. And usually if you do hear about special teams, it's not great, but we've been talking about it in a great light.
That's exactly true. Normally when you hear the kicker's name or you hear the special teams coordinator's name a couple times, it's not for good reason. But yeah, no, you got to give him credit. You don't really think about the special teams unit until you need them. And it's sometimes in games like this to where you need a 54-yard field goal from a guy who wasn't even supposed to be the starter to come up and make a huge impact in this football game. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Keely. Shout out to that entire staff and then that entire unit as a whole. Special teams has been really good for USC this year.
Alrighty, Cody. Any final thoughts before we wrap this one up? USC taking care of business in the Coliseum against Michigan.
Yeah, my final note, and I put it in all caps. This was so important in this football game on both sides of the ball. We had 3 penalties the entire game. We had 0 penalties in the first half, and we had 0 penalties on defense. We were one of the most penalized teams coming into this game. The fact that we were as disciplined as we were, we took the bye week to self-scout, to fix and correct some of those mistakes that we were making, and then go apply it on the field was huge in this game. And one of those penalties was a dead ball penalty, the 15-yarder on Mekhi Lemon. I'm not worried about that. He'll get that fixed. But the other 2 were on offense. The fact that we had 0 on the defensive side of the ball, we played a clean game. We were physical too. It wasn't like we came into this game and weren't physical. We played tough. We played physical, but we also played smart and we played clean football. You're going to win a lot of games like that. So I got to give credit to Lincoln Riley and his coaching staff overemphasizing eliminating those penalties, playing some clean football, and not putting ourselves in bad situations because of some dumb penalties.
And not to get too cheesy, but this is my final thought, Cody. It feels like this game was why we all enjoy college football. You know what I mean? There's so much changing in the landscape of college football, but this was just one of those moments where the Coliseum was packed. Everyone had energy. The team had energy. You could tell that they were all bonded together and wanted to get a win. I just thought it was just such a fun moment and such a turning point and a significant win for USC that it was nice to have them have the success that they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when you're a young player dreaming of playing college football. If I could just capture a moment, that was it yesterday. That is the type of game that you dream of playing in. The Stanford game in 2013, playing in some of these games against a big conference opponent to where it means a lot going forward and it can set the foundation and change the culture of your football team and give you a belief that, okay, maybe we can get these games done. Maybe we do belong in the Big Ten. Maybe we can go win a Big Ten championship this year. Maybe we deserve to be in the playoffs. Even with all these injuries and all this adversity that we've had to overcome, those are the games that can change the culture and change the future of your program. So I'm so happy USC went out there and got it done and took care of business. But I will add with this or end with this. That's not the Super Bowl. That's just another week. We can celebrate it. We can enjoy it. 24-hour rule for the team. Fans, we can probably enjoy it for a whole year because now we have bragging rights over Michigan like we know they did from a year ago. And one of my good buddies is Devin Gardner, who played quarterback for Michigan. We were going back and forth on Twitter a little bit. So we can enjoy it more on the outside. But if you're a team, if you're Lincoln Riley, hey, 24 hours, just like if it was any other opponent, whether it was a loss, whether it was a win, you enjoy it, celebrate it, and then you're right back to business that following week. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. This isn't the final game of the season. This is just another win. It means a little bit more, sure, but now you have to keep that as a standard going forward. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Keely. It's those games that you live for, and it's really cool when you come out on the winning side of those. So Trojan fans, really enjoy this one.
Coach Cody putting us back in the game week mindset. It's
Coach
rivalry
I'm always
week now.
Coach yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
you
Exactly.
are.
We're done. Hey, let's go. It's Notre Dame week. Don't even get me started. And we're going to South Bend. Make sure you guys tune in on Wednesday. We got
I'm
a good one.
excited for this preview episode.
Yeah, this preview episode is going to be really good. But I'll wrap us up. I'll do my wrap up, and then Keely will take us home. Fight on. Love you guys. If you're going to the rest of the games to Coliseum this year, as the standard is for the team, that's the standard for the home crowd. We've got to be able to be that 12th man. We've got to be able to cheer our team on. That was awesome to see. Thank you guys so much for supporting us, too. It's so much fun to talk about USC football, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss. We're always riding with those guys. We know that you are, too. We bleed Cardinal and Gold here over at the Victory Podcast. But, yeah, our Sundays, our Mondays are a little bit better after a dub, so let's keep stacking those, and we'll see you guys soon.
Alrighty, you heard the man. That's going to wrap it up for our recap episode. We'll be back with a preview episode. USC Notre Dame should be a good one. That'll wrap it up, though. That's Cody. I'm Keely. See y'all next time.